In 2017, billions of dollars started showing up in the real estate space. The iBuyer programs. I can name 10 of them. Everybody's going for that. The institutional money has showed up to buy these houses, and they're buying them at such high prices, it's almost like they're spending someone else's money. What's scary is that they say they're not buying it, they're buying at today's prices, but they're buying it at tomorrow's value. And I feel like they know that inflation's coming in a big way, which is why real estate's such a great place to be, because that's a hedge against inflation, is something tangible you can hold. And so if I have to hang my hat on something, what is Mom's House? We are the anti-iBuyer. There's 10 iBuyers out there, but we are the anti-iBuyer.
Hey Phillip, glad to join you for our Thought Leader Spotlight series. Again, my name is Matt Camp with DealMachine. On these, we really like to shine a industry spotlight on people like yourself who are doing something extremely exciting, very interesting. I love the niche that you guys are in. I'm really excited for you to kind of tell our community about today. I know your background, you said you were a developer, you were in construction, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
And I know you're a St. Louis guy like me, so excited to do this in person. Welcome on.
Thank you for having me, guys. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so can we start there maybe? I know you're CEO of Mom's House, obviously. Yeah. You are providing us with this phenomenal stage.
Thank you, yeah.
You guys you just had one of your events. Can you maybe tell more people about Mom's House and even the event that you just had? I'd love to educate them on that too.
Sure. In this space, we just recently had 53 people graduate yesterday.
Yeah.
So we do these 3-day deep dives into what I consider to be the best place to get leads in real estate. Everybody says, where are the leads at? Mm-hmm. Where are the leads, right?
For sure.
There's all the ways to get the leads, but then when you battle with everyone else that's doing all the other same types of marketing, there's so many people fishing in that same pond.
Yeah.
And so with what I do, what Mom's House is using the senior living industry to create the best leads that come to you. So not outbound marketing. I've done millions of pieces of outbound marketing. It's how do you get the best leads to come to you through relationships. And so I want to be clear. People sometimes think I'm going to teach you how to take a single family home and turn it into a residential assisted living community. That's not what we do. But those residential assisted living communities that you see going up all over, like even in St. Louis, we're here in Chesterfield right now, there's a huge one out front.
Yep.
And they're building a huge one next to the huge
They're
one.
everywhere. Yeah.
They're everywhere. And that's my point. It's called the Silver Tsunami, is happening right now. And we have a 20-year run from now.
Yeah.
That's taking off now. The tsunami's coming. And I feel like you're going to be buying houses from people that get into this program, whether it's you in your market or from somebody else, because of the staggering numbers. And an interesting number is that 7 out of 10 Americans are going to live in some sort of assisted care before they pass away. Mm-hmm. How do they pay for that care? $8,000, $10,000 a month. Mm-hmm. It's usually the asset of the house they need to sell.
Yeah. Can you maybe tell us more about how you found that niche and how you found, really kind of a little bit more about your background?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Our community loves learning about each individual we bring on, and I think you guys, you're in such an interesting place that, like you said, the next 20 years are going to be very exciting for that world. So tell us how you found that in your background.
Sure, I'd be happy to. And a long story short, I've been in real estate 22 years. I started off in new construction. Yep. I built my first house when I was 20 years old. And I did that because my family is in construction, so it didn't scare me to do that. And being a developer and dealing with contractors and all these people, I realized it didn't make me happy. Mm-hmm. I didn't like to mess with rehabbers, right? Or construction people. The timelines were 12 to 18 months to get your check. Mm-hmm. And so back in 2000, when I started, I worked my way back to becoming a wholesaler. And I know almost everybody listening right now is probably a wholesaler dreaming to become a developer. And I would say, think about what fulfills you and then go after that in life. And so I like my life now. I talk to about 10 families a month and I buy 3 or 4 houses because the leads are so good.
Yeah.
And so you asked me, how did I get there? I don't know if you guys are going to believe this or not. This was truly born out of laziness. People laugh when I say that.
Good way to think about it.
It was. I hated working crappy leads so much that I was like, where are even today, where do the best leads come from? And when I discovered senior living, this was back in 2011, we had done 66 deals that year. And I said, at the end of the year, I was like, what was the stereotype about all these sellers? If we had to tell one story, one generic story about all these sellers, what would it be? And it was something like this. It was, well, Dad passed away 8 years ago. Mom's been doing the best she can. Deferred maintenance is there. She's been piddling around the house doing good, but then she fell down again.
Yeah.
And this time she has to have a hip surgery. And this time the doctor says when mom gets out of rehab in 3 weeks, she can't move back home.
Yeah.
The adult children are scrambling to get mom the best care, but now the doctor said she can't move back home. So immediately right now, me and you were brothers, is mom going to live by you? Is she going to live by me? Is she going to live by our sister? Is she going to live by where she lives now? What level of care does mom need? It's truly a crisis mode, and they need to make a really hard decision really quickly. And in those moments, those stakeholders in senior living are giving them advice. And when they say, in this case in St. Louis, call Phillip, he's the most trusted guy in town, game over. These are the best leads in the business. And so in 2011, I said, well, who's going to the senior living world and making these relationships? And Brian that I was working with, he said, you should go do that. And I said, I will. And the problem is, right now you guys are hearing this and you're thinking, Phillip walks in the front door and he says, I'm an investor and I buy houses from old people moving into nursing homes. That's not what I do. In that sentence I just said, I said at least 3 things that would get me kicked out of the senior living world, because it's a kinder and gentler way to do business. I'm looking for people that have I call it a heart condition of love. I'm in the hugs and kisses business. The transactional guy who can only see the dollars and can't put others first, this is not good for them. But for somebody that can build relationships, wants to build relationships, this niche can feed your family at least the next 20 years. It's not trendy or sexy what I do, but it's sustainable, and it even gets better in a down market. We've had a frothy market for the past decade, right?
Right.
But even in a down market, what I do gets even more valuable, and so that's why we're here today. I'm ready to tell the whole world about what senior living means for our real estate world if you do it right.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I love the passion that you have for all of this. Like, can you maybe talk? I don't know if there's anywhere that you feel you draw that passion from, but is there anything in your background that got you really just excited about how to help people like this? Or
That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, I guess to get personal, my life was always raised very religious, and I would knock on doors as a kid.
Yeah.
From 0 on up. I've heard no more than anyone listening right now. I've heard the word no a lot in my life, and I think you create these duck feathers, you're immune to it, getting to the yes. I know how to get to the yes. And I think helping people is just kind of, it comes from a place of abundance, like a go-giver mentality. And I think a lot of people when they're starting off, they're so desperate for a deal that it's hard for them to have that go-giver mentality. But I'm telling you guys right now, when you put the family first and their needs, the money's right there with it. If you can unlock all the problems that the family's having. So we call her daughter Judy. So daughter Judy is the adult child of the senior moving into senior living. Daughter Judy's probably 65 years old and her mom's 85. So when I'm talking about daughter Judy, she's not a girl, she's a woman who's very busy still. You ever heard the term being drawn and quartered? Where they would used to torture people with horses. They'd put a horse on each limb and pull you apart. That's what daughter Judy is going through in that moment. Her mom's cantankerous because you had to take her out of her forever home and put her in senior living. The community's like, how are you going to pay this $8,000 a month? Mom's pension's $2,000 a month. Where's the money coming from? Your siblings that live in North Carolina are saying, Mom's not as sick as you say she is, and she's not nobody wants to think their mom's getting old.
Right.
Nobody wants to think it. So the adult siblings are putting pressure on daughter Judy. Daughter Judy's still married. She's still active and has her own kids. She has a full-time life, and now she's got to help all these things. She's being pulled in all these directions. And so for us as a business, to answer your question, the care comes from if I put daughter Judy first, the senior living problem gets fixed, and we'll talk about that. Daughter Judy gets what she needs, which is to unlock that equity so she can pay for mom's care, which is the most important thing. And us, the investor, we're the easy part.
Right.
I've told you this before. There's 6 reasons why these are the best leads. Let's go for them. You want to go for them? 6. Here they are. Here's the 6.
Do it.
I don't have to convince them of motivation. They are highly motivated. Have you ever talked to a senior? Whatever a doctor says is gospel. They don't question it at all. When a doctor says you can't live at home anymore, they're moving, right? I don't have to convince them of motivation. Second reason is 9 times out of 10, they own the house outright. So there's no mortgage to worry about. The third reason is that these are houses I can add value to. if every house was 2 years old, we'd all have a lot less to do in our real estate world, right? These are houses that they bought 1973, 1965, 1978, and it's their forever home. And even if it's clean, or what I like to call grandma clean, it's got new hot water heater. They put the roof on, but the paneling's in the wrong spot, the shag carpeting. It had a new kitchen, but that kitchen's from 1991. They bought it in 65, but it's still dated again. They've been there so long that they've had a second cycle of datedness. And those grandma clean houses are some of my favorite houses because I can add value to them with the rehab.
Right.
They need to be rehabbed to get them ready for the market. Let's not gloss over this either. More than the rehab, the stuff prevents people from selling more than you realize. Mm-hmm. So having solutions, this is a real estate show, right? But having solutions for stuff, and by the way, I'm not suggesting anyone get in the stuff business. Let me just give you this stat. One of my downsizing guys in St. Louis says the average estate sale in St. Louis generates between $3,000 and $5,000 worth of revenue. That's how much dad's stuff is worth, or mom's stuff is worth.
Yeah.
The cost to put that sale on, between $3,000 and $5,000 to put the sale on.
Wow.
So I didn't just say that mom's stuff is worth zero. I think it's worse than that, because it might take you 2 months to get ready for the sale, to catalog, to chronicle, all to find out that you kind of got right. And so if you can be a solution for that, you help that family. The fourth reason, let's go into that. There's less competition. I would even say no competition. I compete against myself mainly, maybe against a realtor, but never against 10 other investors like sometimes direct mail or something does, right? If you're a real estate investor, you've been in that house appointment where there's 33 cards sitting there. Let's think about this for a second. When you do direct mail, does this sound familiar? Over the age of 65, have lived there at least 20 years, and has equity. We all mail to that list, right? Mm-hmm. We mail to that list in the attempt that they're going to hit them at the right moment when they need to sell their house. Mm-hmm. I call it spray and pray. Mm-hmm. With this, they're raising their hand and saying, literally, hey, it's time for me to sell right now. It's the flashpoint of people needing to sell their house. The fifth reason is the most important, why these are the best leads. A warm referral from someone that, if me and your brothers were getting advice from, that trusted person, we're saying, help us with mom. When we get advice from that person and they refer to you as the buyer, as the most trusted person in town, you could be halfway incompetent and buy a lot of houses, because that transfer of trust is there. Mm-hmm. So if you add those 5 reasons up, I always say I'd take the Pepsi challenge with any lead source, because they're amazing leads. And I said there were 6 of them. Those 5 were worth it just alone. Just in that, people are like, I want in. The 6th reason, these leads are free, if you know how to build the relationships.
Right.
And they're ongoing and reoccurring. I always say, imagine doing a mailer today and you buy a house in 2031. Mm-hmm. That's maybe it would happen, right? But probably not. These relationships I've built, I truly don't know the lifetime value of my relationships yet, because I'm still doing deals with them every month from 10 years ago.
It's a long-term game. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've still got 20 years in front of us now. It's getting bigger now. Mm-hmm. And so I'm excited to tell everyone about it. That's why we're here.
Yeah, that is one thing I love to ask people that come on here that have, you're clearly in your niche and can see that coming. Can you talk more about the trends you're seeing in your space, where you think the space will be going, just where you see the market moving?
My space or the entire real estate space?
Both, really. I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah.
If you feel comfortable.
Of course. Yeah. In 2017, billions of dollars started showing up in the real estate space. The iBuyer programs. I can name 10 of them. Mm-hmm. Everybody's going for that. The institutional money has showed up to buy these houses, and they're buying them at such high prices, it's almost like they're spending someone else's money. Mm-hmm. What's scary is that they say they're not buying it, they're buying at today's prices, but they're buying it at tomorrow's value. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they know that inflation's coming in a big way, which is why real estate's such a great place to be, because that's a hedge against inflation, is something tangible you can hold. And so if I have to hang my hat on something, what is mom's house? We are the anti-iBuyer. There's 10 iBuyers out there, but we are the anti-iBuyer. And I'll give you a good example. I put a house through Open Doors system the other day. They offered me $224,000 for a house in Imperial, which you guys don't know where that's at, but in our town. That house was probably on its best day when it was brand new. At most, it should have been a $180,000 house. So when they offered me $224,000, I giggled. I'm like, probably not. I'm like, oh, what? I was like, okay, wow. Like I was thinking to myself, not as Phillip the investor. I was thinking of like the layperson doing that same thing. Mm-hmm. they would be giddy 224. They do an exterior walkthrough, you send them the pictures, and when they did that, what do you think their offer came down to?
Market?
167.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, 224 to 167 is a hell of a drop. So if you were the layperson and selling your house on that system, do you feel like you got bait and switched a little bit?
Yeah.
There's a better way to do this business. And I feel like with what daughter Judy's going through, with what the senior is going through, there's a lot of hand holding and things besides the real estate that we have to figure out as good investors. I have a credibility packet that we use that solves 10 different problems that family's going through in that moment that's not house related.
Yeah.
But I've done this so many times, if I unlock all those other things, like I'll give you an example. There was a house I bought last month. I brought my downsizing guy with me to the lead that I got from senior living. I brought my downsizing guy because the guy wanted to sell the house and the stuff. My downsizing guy bought out all the stuff, and I bought the house. And don't you think he probably sold to me because I fixed 2 problems at one time? Right? It's about solving problems and trying to unlock. All my negotiations, I like to sit on the same side of the table with them, looking at the problem together versus me versus them.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of transactional real estate investors, they want to, you know, the term negging, they want to neg the house. I'll tear this wall out. And this is somebody's forever home. This is where their memories are. And I'm looking for investors that have that right love in them. The word is empathy. And for any females that are listening right now, I really believe in my heart that you have the advantage in my business more than men, just because there's naturally more empathy in ladies. So that should be exciting to some people.
The empathy thing is really interesting. I mean, how do you, I mean, that's something that no matter what you do, you know, whether you're for you guys, you know, looking to team up with people, we're talking to a lot of people who they're also looking for partners on their end to team up with. When you're going through and assessing a partner like that, what's your process? What are the types of things you're looking for to find that empathy, to know they have a great heart, to you know, get to that point where you're really comfortable going all in with that person?
Great question. This week we had 53 people graduate with a senior transition specialist certification. We do testimonials on day 3, so we just did them yesterday. The feedback is it was a lot. So in the 3 days, it's like drinking out of a fire hose of this new industry. I don't spend a lot of time on how to write contracts. You know, there's plenty of resources for that. This is how you break into the senior living industry. There's so much content about who you need to be. I feel like the people weed themselves out after they go through the 3-day. So we don't partner with anyone until they've had that training. And people have said, I don't think I'm right for this. In my heart, good.
Good, yeah.
Good, thank you. Well, at least we got there, you know, and they got some knowledge, they learned about what's coming, but it's not right for everyone. But I attract a certain crowd. I attract a little bit older demographic, which is fine. I mean, young people can do this too. Young people should definitely do this. There's 20 years in front of us, right? If you're 20 now, you can do this until you're 40. Maybe be done by 40, you know. The training itself, is the word browbeat. You know, we browbeat it into them. If you can't embrace the senior world and use the wording that they use, take interest in the networking, and not do it as an investor or a realtor. Let's talk about that for a second. Every one of their Facebook pages says investor, investor, investor. In our world, we love the word investor, right? In the senior living world, though, all they hear is the word shark when they see the I word. And so you have to approach it a different way. And if you're a realtor, that might even be worse, only because that's the way they've been fixing this problem the past 30 or 40 years. The senior living world knows they have a problem. If you knew you had a shelf life, I hate to use that word, but your customer is going to be with you 28 months, but you knew there was that hold up in the front to get the equity unlocked out of the house, even with the market being so good, by the time you get the house cleaned out, get the rehab contractors through there, get more rehab bids, because have you guys tried to get a contractor right now with the market being so good?
Not ideal, yeah.
Not ideal, right? And by the way, they live 400 miles away. I don't want to rehab across town in St. Louis, let alone in Cincinnati. I wouldn't know what to do. Think how handcuffed you would feel trying to rehab your mom's house 400 miles away. And so there's a better way to do it by treating people fairly. We're real estate experts. We should be able to go in there and do a $60,000 rehab for $40,000. Well, that 20 grand is our profit.
Right.
And we're taking that, you know, all the family should care about is what they net. And if you knew right now in 28 months your mom would probably pass away, do you think you'd go start a rehab project on her house?
Right.
Or do you think you'd try to go hang out with her more?
It's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
Do you think on the rehabbing side, so because we do have a good amount of investors on watching this, that they might be wholesaling, they might be fixing up houses, that kind of thing. Do you have any tips for them, since you guys have been through that process and you have experience, and even your background was in that space?
Sure. Tips for rehabbers?
Yeah, on the rehab side that you think would be actionable, because we do like to make sure we have really actionable stuff coming.
Oh yeah, let's do it. For me, when I meet somebody that just got into the business, they always pick. It's a $30,000 rehab. I don't know why in our town it's always $30,000. And then what they're trying to say to you is, there's some stuff to do here. Mm-hmm. When I pull up and it needs a driveway, a retaining wall, and a roof, and I go, oh man, oh man,
right.
I've spent 30 grand. I haven't even walked in the front door yet. And I think it's knowing you need to have a mentor to know what you need to be looking for. Mm-hmm. I said this the other day to the students, that when I walk through a house, I'm not looking at the things I need to rehab. I'm looking at the things I can keep. Mm-hmm. Because almost everything's getting rehabbed, right? If it has new siding, in my head, I start subtracting off of a total rehab the things I can keep. If it has hardwoods, but they need to be resurfaced, hey, it's only $2 a foot. Shout out to Brad Evans. It's only $2 a foot, right? And you can rehab those floors that are there, but it's something I can keep. Hey, they just did that bathroom, and it was pretty nice. They did it 10 years ago, but it's still up to date. I can keep that, right? So I think everyone's looking at what they have to replace. Well, in these houses that we're talking about, it's almost everything to make it retail ready. Another good piece of advice is, for every lane of highway in front of the house, take off 10% of the retail value. Some people might say, this comp is 280, and my house is right on the main drag with all the. Your house is not worth 280 if you're right on the main. You have to look at your comps and then go, mine's a plus or mine's a negative. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people just want to believe whatever the biggest number is, and it's a good way to get out of this business.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm a big person on, if I'm not 15 minutes early, I'm late. And so I run my comps. Before I get to the appointment, I'll go look at those comps and see, oh man, that one's on the golf course. Well, obviously it's not a good comp for my house that I'm going to try to buy. Or the opposite, right? You have to know your numbers very well to be able to be aggressive enough to buy houses right now.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people starting off, they kid themselves that they're going to get the highest comp, and they kid themselves that it's going to be the lowest rehab. And I do my business the exact opposite. I'm very conservative on my ARV, and if it goes higher, that was my bonus.
That's great, yeah.
And I'm reasonable on my rehab.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say I love these very specific tips as well. I think the sales piece and your sales background would be something, especially for the newbies who, maybe they have sales experience in another industry, maybe they don't.
Yeah.
Do you
on the relationship building, or which part?
Yeah, where you said like, hey, I like to be on the same side as somebody. I like to help. We're solving a problem together. Like, I love that mindset of how you and then when you've been door knocking since forever.
Since birth, yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. What are some of your things over the years that you reflect on that makes you different as a salesperson? Like, how do you think you stand out in that space? Because you clearly have a knack for it. But
if I have a superpower, it's I have the ability to call their baby ugly without making them feel that way. Uh-huh. Meaning, I will say, like, if it's a ranch in a good part of town, hey, this is a ranch. Everybody loves ranches, and you're in a phenomenal school district. Obviously, this house needs love, though. Mm-hmm. That sounds different than this house is crap, and everyone else's houses around here are nice. Why is yours? Mm-hmm. I can go negative a nice way. I also don't spend a lot of time on the house. When I'm building rapport with the family, and let's just say that I build rapport with the family. Some of my competitors throw their hoodie up, they walk through with their iPad, go through. I'll send you an offer, and I'm like, wow. I've seen my competitors do that. I'm like, what? You spent all that time to get that lead to come across, and now you're with the seller, and you're not going to let them know who you are, and you're just going to email them an offer? Mm-hmm. I build a relationship with them, and I hardly ever talk about the house. When we walk through the house, I'm finding out who my seller is. I'm finding out through questions what their needs are besides the house. The house is the easy part. What's going on in their family? Where are their pressures at? What's going to stop them from selling it to me today? I also, before I even get there, I set the stage that I am there to buy your house. And if you're not ready to sell me your house, let's wait till you are. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when I'm there, I'm talking about, I'll give you a good example. We're here in St. Louis. When I buy a house in North County and there's a plane, like a tchotchke item, like a plane decal, like a jet, I'm like, I know their dad worked for McDonnell Douglas. Pretty good indication that they work for McDonnell Douglas. I'll say, so Dad worked for what's called Boeing now. Dad worked for Boeing? Yeah, how'd you know that? Well, I said, there's a plane right there. Yeah, Dad worked on that plane. He built that plane, right? Okay. It's those kinds of things. I'm noticing who they are as a person so I can reach them that way.
Yeah.
More than just the comps. I don't really, you better know your comps, but I'm not like giving them, I'm not laying down like a realtor and giving them I'm not doing all that. But when they say, I want 180 for my house because Fred's sold for 180, you better be able to have the talk to say, well, yeah, Fred's is on the golf course,
right,
and it was rehab. Did you see it? What am I trying to say? Know your business. Know your business and be personable. People have sold to me many times for less than another offer because of trust, and they liked me.
Yeah.
And you ask the question, how do I sit on the same side of the table with them? That's taken me years to get to that way. I used to just, here's my offer, and it would hit their ears and they would get mad. And I've gotten better and better to take them on the journey of, if we were working on this problem together. By the way, I start off with the ARV with them. A lot of people don't want to tell them that. I say, I think your house is worth 240 grand. And they sit up, because they know they're not going to get 240. They sit up and they're like, yeah, that's what Zillow said. They're like, okay, but not in today's condition. To get it to that, here's what we need to do. Here's my buying margin. Here's where I let my calculator do the offer.
Transparent. Yeah.
Oh, well, yes, you have to be. You have to be. I'll say, let's just use round numbers. I think your house is worth 100,000. St. Louis, I do in a good area, times 0.80. This house needs 10 grand worth of work, and I just hold the calculator out with the word 70,000 there, and I go, so I'll be around this. And then it might be a 1 minute pause, and I'm not going to say the next word no matter what. They're going to look at it and they're going to say, well, I was hoping for 75. Or they'll say, that's lower than I thought. Or they'll say, can you write it up?
There you go.
Don't be afraid of the pause, because in that next moment, they're probably going to tell you the reason why they can't sell it to you yet. And if you can overcome that right there on site, you can buy a house right there. My goal is to buy it on site.
Yeah. This has been phenomenal.
Thank you.
I think one last thing, I know I don't want to take up too much of your time. You've touched on the word mentor a couple times, and that is something, I think with you guys even just bringing in people, you act as a mentor in that way. Can you maybe talk about a little bit more the importance of a mentor in your life,
Sure.
how that's turned out, and how to find a mentor, for people watching this as well?
My free advice there is, don't take life advice from somebody that doesn't have a good life.
It's a good rule of thumb.
I look at people like Sean McCloskey, Brian Schroeder. Those are people in our local area. They had a life that I wanted to emulate because I thought that they looked at life the right way. Successful, but not flashy, right? Those are things that I want to have that in my life, right? If you have to have the diamond watch, what are you trying to say to the world? I don't need a diamond watch to be happy, right? What am I saying with that? I feel like we give the world what they can use against us to judge us with. And so I like to, my happy moments in my life is to make you laugh or make you smile, make you happy. And I think because I deal in senior living, probably one of my superpowers is it brevity? Is that the word? Where you bring some humor to really life and death situations. That's that's what I like to do. I like to bring happiness to people, and for that I get to buy houses. I like houses, right? I like to buy houses. I've bought 1,000 in my career. I love a day where I can go 3 appointments in an afternoon. Nothing better than I like to do than try to go solve 3 people's issues, and unlock their equity for them. I buy the house, I make money, and then I'm done. I can do that in 3 or 4 weeks because I wholesale. And so the rehabbers out there, I love to feed rehabbers with these deals because there's enough meat on the bone for them to buy it and still make money too.
Yeah. Love it. Well, again, really, really appreciate your time today. Can you tell people how to get in touch with you, or to follow up with you?
Sure. Thank you guys for listening to me. If you could, go to momshouse.com /DealMachine. And we'll have some information on there how we can work together, how we can learn more.
Love it. Perfect. Thanks, Phillip. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Again, this is Matt Camp with DealMachine, and happy deal finding.